Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the idea of a monomeal. What is a monomeal, and why would you eat a monomeal? Why is that better? First of all, what is a monomeal? A monomeal is when you eat one type of food for the meal and you just eat as much as you want. So for example, in terms of fruit, it will be like just having a bunch of mangoes, like an unlimited supply of mangoes, and I'll just eat mangoes until I'm satisfied, as many as I want. That's a monomeal. Could be any fruit, and if we extend it, could be anything at all. Now there's really three ways we can look at it. We can look at it from a perspective of observing nature and just like simplifying the whole thing. We could look at it scientifically, or we could look at it experientially. And I'm gonna look at all those three. So first, let's just take a step back and observe nature. How do animals eat in the wild? You know, does the bear go over to pick some blueberries and then it brings it with it, goes and takes a fish out of the stream, put the two together and eat it as a sandwich? No, of course not. It'll eat the fish and then it'll eat the blueberries. A lion, it will eat a monomeal of antelope. Cows eat monomeals of grass. And of course frugivores, chimpanzees, bonobos in the forest, they're eating one fruit at a time. So monomealing is really the norm in nature. It's the way it's always been, and it's the way it's always going to be in the wild. It's the norm. Now if we're to look at it scientifically, we would understand that our bodies digest food by very specific mechanisms. You know, there's the mouth, there's the stomach, there's the intestines, and in this process there are enzymes involved. Enzymes that break down the food, and the enzymes that break down carbohydrates, starch into simple sugars is different from the enzymes that break down fats into fatty acids or proteins into amino acids. So depending on the food we're eating, different conditions are necessary. And you know, if you look up Herbert Shelton food combining in Google, you'll find lots of information on food combining. Logically, our digestive system is best equipped to handle whole foods as they are. Once we start mixing foods, and especially when we start refining them and making, you know, different food composition out of it, we can start to create, you know, problems in terms of how we digest that food. Better to stick to nature's rules, if you will, and just eat the food as it is by itself. Also think about it, if you're out, you know, in the wild and you're searching for food and you come up to a mango tree, you're hungry. Are you gonna just eat one mango and then be like, you know, I'll leave the tree now, I'm gonna look for you know, some bananas, or I'll go look for figs? No, you're hungry, you'll sit down and you'll actually eat as many mangoes from the tree as you want until you are satisfied, and then you'll probably rest a little bit and then you'll keep going about your day. You know, this kind of scenario makes it clear to me anyway that if I'm hungry, I just want to eat, and I want to eat whatever is available to me there and then. And from the natural point of view, that would be one food type at the time. The last point to consider is the experiential point, and this is probably the most important one, because when I sit down to eat, I've noticed that I definitely digest my food the best when I'm eating one food at a time. It just feels the best. But not only does it only digest better, but it tastes better, and the whole experience is better. As soon as I mix in different foods and have lots of different foods to eat, it's sort of distracting. You know, you'll eat as much as you want, but then you'll stop and eat some of this, and then at a certain point it's difficult to gauge how much you've eaten and how hungry or how satisfied you are, because even if you're fully satisfied from eating mangoes and you don't want any more mangoes, your body is telling you you're satisfied, you don't need more mangoes. But then suddenly someone puts an avocado on the table, then it's like, oh, avocado, that's a different kind of taste, that's something else, I think I want some of that too. You eat it, and then someone puts some lychees on the table and it's like, oh, that's interesting. And then it's easier to sort of end up overeating, but this is the details of it. You got to figure it out for yourself. But I just found, if you really want to test a food, if you want to really ask yourself, is this a good food for me? Is this something I want? Is this something that my body wants? And you want to rely on not overeating, not undereating, but you want to trust your body to make the right choices in terms of when to start eating and when to stop eating. The only way to go about it is really a monomeal. When I can focus my mind on one single food for the meal, I enjoy it much more. I can just simply get down to business, if you know what I mean. There's nothing on my mind but this food, and I can taste all the nuances too. When I'm eating papayas by itself, nothing else involved, just papayas, I can taste different nuances in each bite. I can taste the difference between the back of the papaya and the front of the papaya. I can taste from one papaya to the next the differences. If I have different varieties, I'll taste the differences again. But as soon as I start if I were to sort of put passion fruit on there and mix in bananas and make a fruit salad, then I homogenize the whole thing, and it's just all homogenized, and taste is more sort of across the board. So I just find that ironically, there's more variety in a monomeal in terms of taste experience than it is in a fruit salad. Isn't that strange? The simpler you eat, the more you will taste. The simpler you eat, the more nuances you will notice, and the less distracted you are, because you're just into that. You're in a mango meditation, eating mangoes, and you're just like, you know what to do. You know what to do. It's not a new food you have to think about. You just peel another one, eat it. Peel another one, eat it. You know, it just feels more natural. This is my experience anyway. Now, just at the end here, we want to quickly touch upon the idea of food combining, because, yeah, let's face it, we humans, we like to do all kinds of things, right? We play with our food, we play with everything, and we like the idea of creating new things and combining things. So if you want to make a fruit salad, or if you want to, like I sometimes do, mix two different foods, you know, I'll eat papayas and bananas in a meal, or I'll eat some coconut with my bananas, and avocado at the end of my mango meal, just like I mentioned earlier. I find that as long as you generally adhere to the food combining rules, you're good. But you got to remember that these rules are flexible, and we are all individual people with individual strengths and weaknesses, and I suggest you experiment. As long as you're not having bloating or really bad digestion, or just feeling, problems with whatever you're eating, chances are you're all right, So be flexible, experiment, combine things, play around, learn, take feedback from your body. But just remember that ultimately, the best experience you can have food-wise, in terms of taste, in terms of digestion, everything, is the monomeal, in my opinion. The monomeal is just the ultimate deal. People think the monomeal is boring, and I understand. I thought so too myself back in the day when I first heard about a raw food or eating 8 bananas for breakfast. I was just like, what? 8 bananas? That's a lot, first of all, I thought. And secondly, just bananas? What? Sounds so boring. But I was always into food. I always enjoyed eating all kinds of foods, and I was eating everything at one point. And so I know what it's like to eat pizza. I know what it's like to eat steak. I know all these things, and I can honestly say that I've come to a point now where, regardless of my idea about raw veganism being the best or whatever, it is truly, the monomeal is truly the best taste experience, best eating experience that I've ever had. I enjoy my food so much now, so much. I'm almost in a sort of ecstatic state when I'm eating. That's how I think it should be. As soon as I mix it up too much though, then I get distracted and I can't really sort of get into it as much as I do when I'm just eating as nature intended, with my hands, shoving it in my face, tearing off skins, burping, just being an animal. Just eating like an animal. That's what I enjoy a lot, and I don't care about manners and that sort of thing, because it's just so enjoyable to eat that way. So give that a try. check out our free booklet on how to get started with the raw vegan diet if you're just starting out. Lots of great tips in there. And in the meantime, of course, just experiment. Just try out the Monomeal and make sure you got good fruit. And if it's not tasty, if it's not enjoyable, chances are the fruit isn't really that good and you should keep searching for better fruit. Maybe even go traveling.